Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Shadows Podcast. I'm your host, Trip Odenheimer. Today, the fan in me is very, very, very excited to have a college basketball player that I grew up watching. I remember sitting at my house through the 1990 tournament with my parents. That's one of the memories I remember most about my childhood, and rooting for the Loyola Marymount team to get to the Final Four, playing in honor of their fallen teammate Hank Gathers. So today I have Jeff Fryer, who was a guard on that team. I'm going to read off just a couple of his accolades. Honestly, when I sit down and I try to come up with the accolades for these guests, usually I have like 3 or 4 little quick hitters for each one, but his would have taken forever to knock out. We're going to cover a lot of it throughout this, but he played at Loyola from 1987 to 90. He played, as I said, with Hank Gathers, also with Bo Kimble. They were part of the system with Paul Westhead, where they averaged 740 points a game, it seemed like. But he was 112 games played, 17.2 points per game. He had 7 NCAA tournament games that he was part of, 26 for 26 from the free throw line during the tournament, 166 points total. He still, to this day, has the record in the NCAA tournament for most threes made in a game, where he scorched Michigan for 11. Sorry, Michigan fans. 11 three-pointers in that game. Sir, welcome to the Shadows Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. And we're going to get started first because there is so much to unpack with this episode. So first thing, our rapid fire questions. If you could play for one college program in 2021, what would that be?
College program, Loyola Marymount.
Okay, there you go. Give Gonzaga a run for the money in that conference. Okay, so what is the favorite Hank Gathers story that nobody has heard?
Is it rapid fire, or do I have some time?
You have some time. I'll go to a next one and let you think about that one.
No, I know it. I know what it is.
Okay.
I know it. So when we were playing LSU before the game, we played them at LSU. It was probably the loudest arena I've ever been in. But anyway, we were playing against Shaquille O'Neal, Stanley Roberts, and Chris Jackson, who were all top 10 draft picks in the NBA. And before the game, we were riding over on the bus, and it was a big game for us. We were on CBS, nationally televised game, and Hank Gathers, we were riding on the bus, and he got a hold of the microphone for some odd reason. I don't know how he did it. Coach kind of let him do it, but he kind of ripped in. He went to every single player and ripped into them like a funny story about each player, or just made fun of them or something, just to kind of have fun and get us loose before the game, because I figured we were pretty nervous, and it was a big game for us. So that really loosened us up. We went out in the game and gave it all we had, and played them into overtime. We had a 1-on-1 situation with 4 seconds left by game. Our player missed it, and then we went into overtime and lost 148 to 142. But it was a big game for us, and that allowed us, what Hank did, to get us loose for the game.
Yeah, that game, we'll talk about that one. But I know a lot of LSU pages or articles, if you ever read, they actually say it's probably the best game in program history against that team. Toughest player you ever had to guard?
Probably that LSU game, Chris Jackson. I also got matched up with Gary Payton a couple times when we were playing Oregon State. But there was a lot of players. Your guys in North Carolina were tough to guard when we played them in the tournament in 1988. There's just a lot of players. I played against Magic Johnson, a bunch of guys. The list is pretty long, but Chris Jackson was a scorer. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was his name. He changed it, but he was really, really tough to guard.
He's unreal too. Like watching his LSU clips,
Yeah.
People can find that game out there. It's floating around. I've seen it. I was big into college basketball, like tape trading when ESPN Classics first started, and those Loyola games. That was like the one to get, was that LSU, and those games age well. You can watch them now, and it's very entertaining. Especially like I think last night, Michigan and Wisconsin was like 75 to 54. So you grew up in Newport Beach, California. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Tell us about like Jeff Fryer, like growing up.
So I grew up in Newport Beach. It's a beach community. Just growing up playing sports, that was a time when we played outside. A lot of kids, weren't worried about much, not many responsibilities, but all the kids would go down to the park and play and play a lot of outdoor hoops and football, whatever. But I believe God really blessed me with good hand-eye coordination from an early age. That was one of his gifts he gave me, and I could shoot the ball pretty well from an early age. So I figured I had an opportunity in basketball to do pretty well. I like to surf, play all the other sports. But basketball really kind of was the sport I excelled in, and so I kept with it. I played 3 sports in high school the first 2 years, and then I quit the others just to play basketball. And I had a great high school coach who was actually a defensive coach, really instilled defensive principles in us. And it's kind of funny that I went to Loyola after that, which we did play defense, but it was full court defense. People sometimes don't realize that, but so growing up, great childhood, and it was I was fortunate enough to have success in high school in basketball and earned a scholarship to Loyola Marymount, and then it took off from there.
When did it click with you? Like, all right, basketball is what I'm going to be doing in college.
It wasn't until probably junior year in college where I was starting to get looks, and I led the county in scoring my junior and senior years in Orange County, California, and that's my junior year is when I figured I might have a shot. Just because I believe there's always a place on the court for a shooter, and that's what I tell the kids that I coach. Because the object of the game is to score more points than the other team, right? So if you can score, then your coach is going to want to play you.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you got to do all the other things good, like defense, rebound, be a good teammate, pass, but if you can shoot, he's going to find a place for you. So
what did your parents do?
My dad was involved in business, and my mom was a school teacher, and so they split when I was young, but grew up with my mom and my older brothers, and I think that's how I got better too, because playing with older brothers and their friends, they beat up on me a lot, and especially when I drive the lane. We had a hoop in our backyard, so that's when I learned to shoot outside. When I take it inside, they slam me.
Jordan
so I
rules.
had to shoot outside. Yeah, exactly. So that helps as a younger brother playing with older brothers. My brothers Brad and George and their friends, and that helped a lot in my development.
Especially when you're young, like even someone like a grade older than you, that's like an eternity. They're so much older than you at that point.
Yeah.
So you started to get recruited. What were some of the schools that you were seriously considering outside of Loyola?
Well, a funny story. When I was before my senior year of high school, I had a few offers. One was UC Irvine. One was I think University of Pacific, and then Chapman College, which was a Division II school. And funny story is that Steve Lavin was a player there, the UCLA coach for St. John's. He's a commentator now, but he, the coach at Chapman had me convinced, which Steve played for, had me convinced that I couldn't play Division I basketball. And I was just about to sign a letter of intent with them. And they had brought their whole team over to my house, recruited me really hard. And I was about to sign it. And I was like, I'm going to wait till and have a good senior season. And then hopefully more colleges will want to come after me and want me to go there. So I didn't sign it, and I had a really good senior season. I averaged 29 and led the county in scoring again. And then Paul Westhead had come to all my good games. It's funny how God's timing works, that he would come to the games I really excelled at. And I kind of wanted to go to USC, Santa Barbara, or San Diego State, but they didn't. USC came to the games. I played really poorly, and it's just the timing of it really worked out well for me.
Yeah, that's crazy how that worked out. I heard or I read that Paul Westhead pretty much told you you got the green light to shoot if you come play here. Is that true?
Yeah. So when he recruited me, he came to my high school and walked around campus with me. And he was wearing his NBA championship ring that he won when he was the head coach with the Lakers. Yeah. And so we sat down on a bench and he goes, Jeff, if you come to Loyola, I'll give you the green light to shoot whenever you touch the ball. And I was like, yeah, right. But I mean, I believed him. And sure enough, he was true to his word. But at that point, I was like, wow, an NBA championship head coach is telling me that he gave me the green light. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so I ended up going there. They had a good business program too for their business administration program. And that's what I wanted to study. And so he, sure enough, true to his word, another funny story that one of the first games I got the starting nod my freshman year after about 6 games, and to a guy that was way better athletically than me, better shooter probably, but I don't know how I got the starting job, but I got it. About 5 minutes in the game, I passed up a shot. I get taken out, and I'm like, why did you take me out? You know, it was early in the game, and so he takes me aside and goes, you know why I took you out of the game? And I go, no, coach, poor defense or something. And then he's like, no, you passed up a shot. And I was like, oh, okay.
He really does mean what he says.
Yeah. So at that point, I got the picture, and it never happened again the rest of my career.
Yeah, and like I said, if y'all go back and watch any Loyola games, you'll see that ball touches your hands, it's going up. He referred to you as his hired gun on the team?
Yeah, I believe so. We were all Bo was too, and Hank and some of the other guys, but primarily, yeah, I was a shooter.
So Coach Paul Westhead, we'll start talking about the system in just a second, but he's got a book out, The Speed Game. And, we're all about promoting, readers or leaders, and leaders or readers here on the podcast. So definitely go check that one out. I've actually got it ordered. I'm gonna open that up pretty soon. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned that you see yourself doing now with your academy that you're like, I probably picked that up from Coach Westhead?
Yeah, I had some really good coaches growing up, and he was one of them. He was my favorite coach, I believe. And one of the things I learned from him was, all my coaches they're very positive and encouraging. They'd let you know when you're doing something you shouldn't, with discipline, but they wouldn't get in your face guys. But from Westhead, he was the same. And I really take that into my coaching with the youth in my basketball academy I run now, and try to train my coaches that way, because that's how you get the most out of players, I believe, is to coach out of love and not fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because fear-based coaching is not the answer, I don't believe, and it can really cause a lot of problems, and also doesn't get the most out of your players.
Yeah, it's funny how that kind of lines up with even, a lot of the people that I've associated with in the military, is that you could have that drive it off fear, but if you're that liberator and just sit there and you're there for them, and you can take it outside of just a basketball court or outside of being in a uniform and help people out, they'll do so much more for you.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you don't get on the guys, sometimes, and discipline them and all that sort of stuff, but there's a balance.
Yeah,
got to be a balance.
Absolutely. And so when you had committed to Loyola, did you already know that Hank and Bo had already started the transfer process from Southern Cal?
Not really, although I was the first guy that signed with Paul Westhead at Loyola, and then Bo and Hank signed 2 weeks later, and I didn't know that, but until then. But and then Corey Gaines transferred from UCLA a week after that. So right there, we had a good little nucleus of guys, and we were off to the races.
Yeah, and for those of you who are familiar with Bo Kimble, Hank Gathers, but you don't know like the full picture, they had committed. They played their freshman season at Southern Cal under Stan Morrison, and then he was fired. George Raveling comes in, made some controversial comments, but he was basically like, if you don't want to be here, you're not going to be here. And they opted to leave, and they ended up at Loyola Marymount, and they set out your freshman year, right? From transferring.
That's correct. In 86, 87, they sat out, and they would really take it to us in practice. They were the practice squad, but they would always beat the first team.
I was like, I bet that knowing like from what I've read and what I've seen on those two, I bet it was driving them crazy not to play that season.
Oh yeah, they wanted to play bad, but they realized their situation, so they made the most of it and prepared for the following season where we had a really good year.
So before I jump into your time at your career at Loyola, and we kind of talk about that, the system, Paul Westhead's system. Dick Vitale called it like roller derby in shorts. It was fast break 3-point shooting. I think you would refer to it like helter skelter defense, but it was like a full court press. And you're right. Y'all do get a bad rap a lot of times for just throwing up shots, but y'all did play some legit defense. And y'all would fatigue the other teams. And it was almost by like second half, they would start melting down and pulling on their shorts and getting really tired. I think you can see Shaq in that game that we referred to is just absolutely exhausted. And I saw this. I don't believe it. It said average possession was 7 seconds. I think that's kind of four corners time for y'all. I think that y'all are more like 5 seconds. I've seen on documentaries that like the trainers would stretch the nets so the ball could get through there quicker, but teams would try to slow y'all down by taking the ball and kind of so many like, hey, that's a warning for throwing the ball out of bounds. But explain to someone like the conditioning that goes into playing in the system.
Well, we prided ourselves on being the best shaped team in the country, and we were up there pretty high, but we had a rigorous preseason conditioning program with the sand dune hill we'd run and
Manhattan Beach.
Yeah, Manhattan Beach, yeah. And sprints that we do, and long distance running, weight training, pickup games, after all that. So yeah, during the season, we all of our practice drills, a lot of them were full court drills. So some teams kind of take it easy during the season. No, we were going full bore. And coach had our respect, because he earned it, but plus he had a great resume. So there's a lot of respect right there for that. But I respected him immediately. And then he was true to his word. He didn't waver, and he was a great leader and a good motivator. So it was I was very fortunate to play in that system because it really enhanced my abilities to perform. And it was just a lot of fun as well. We had a great time playing that way. I mean, it was great to watch it, I'm sure, as a spectator, but also to play was just phenomenal.
What was the shot clock situation like in practice? Did he have like a shot clock that he would have set up for you all of like 7 seconds or something like that?
No, there was no shot clock. We were going to put the ball up quick though. There's no hesitation in that. There's no time. And the guys I coach now, we don't really have the guys in our program. We have a lot of teams, youth teams, and It's tough to run that system. But I do. For all teams that we coach, it's good to get a first open look. And that's what I took from Loyola too. Because sometimes teams, they'll walk it up, they'll work the ball the whole shot clock, and sometimes they don't even get a shot off or take a crazy shot.
It's not a good one.
If you have a good open shot when you're bringing the ball up and fast breaking, go ahead and take it. That's what I encourage guys to do. So that's what I took from Loyola as well in Western.
Very random question. Did y'all ever get a shot clock violation in your 4 years?
I don't remember one. No.
So
even against Michigan, when we beat them by 34 in the tournament, we kept pushing the ball and we didn't we didn't like stall or slow it up at all, really. I don't think at the end.
No, y'all took it to them the whole time.
Yeah.
The one Alabama, that's probably the closest y'all got was the Alabama game. But you well, let me ask you this. Do you think that system could work in 2021?
Well, the problem is that the scores have gone down over the years, right? On the downward trend. And coaches, I believe, do not want to lose their jobs because it seems like they don't have control. You know, they want control of the game and call out plays, walk it up. I believe they think it would seem that they don't have control of the game and the team if they do run that way. But I think if you have the right players and you have the right system and the guys that buy in, that's really key. If the guys buy into the system like we did, then I think it could work. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because prepping for this, I was watching Virginia Tech and Duke, Michigan, Wisconsin were on, and North Carolina, Syracuse. And nothing against any of those guys playing there or the coaches, but I was watching it last night and I was like, after watching Loyola games for the past couple of days and now watching it is so much slower. And I see what you're saying with the job security, because I think even Paul Westhead has said that if you're going to run it, you got to have a long contract extension to be able to do so.
I read an article he was mentioned in or was interviewed for that I kept, and it was in the LA Times, I think. And he had mentioned one of his quotes was, "The best thing I ever did was to stop coaching on the court," you know, because how much you're going to control in the game anyway. It's the guys out there doing the work. And,
yeah.
What are you going to do on the sidelines? You can't get out there and shoot shots. So that's what I remember that quote very vividly, and that's interesting.
Yeah, it's 30 for 30. The Guru Go. You were in that one. That was really good. Actually, my wife was. She's not a huge sports fan, but we sat down and actually watched that together, and she thought it was excellent. It was an excellent piece that they put together to kind of capture his career. What about his poetry?
Well, he was a Shakespearean scholar, and he taught an English class on campus, which is very rare for a college coach to also teach at the college, especially at that level that he was coaching. So, yeah, he had some interesting quotes. I remember one of them, and I'll probably butcher it, but it is by Macbeth, and from Macbeth, and it's about the fast break. And he said, "If it were done, when 'tis done, 'twere it were done quickly." And that kind of sums up his fast break. So I think I got it right, but it was back there somewhere in my memory bank. But that's what he would quote to us, and all sorts of other quotes and from Shakespeare. And he was an interesting guy, and very smart, bright scholar and coach.
I like in the 30 for 30 when they bring up the fact that he was throwing all that poetry at y'all, and y'all are all like, yeah.
Yeah.
He would throw them out there at us. It was good stuff. But I like how they incorporated that into the actual piece, how it was like a transition into the next part of the 30 for 30. I thought that was pretty cool and very well done. Yeah. So you, like you said, you got there your freshman year, 87. Y'all were 12-16. Y'all 85 points a game, which that's really high for right now. That was 15th in college basketball at the time. That kind of shows you how much the game has changed. But in that next year, the 88 season, Hank Gathers, y'all had all the transfers were eligible to play. And y'all were 28-4, 14-0 in at that time it was the WCAC, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
And y'all are now first in college basketball in terms of scoring 110 points a game. And it's actually out there, I believe, on YouTube. It'll probably be down now that I've said that. But the first game y'all had that was televised was against St. John's. And if you go out and watch that game, you can kind of see glimpses of what this team is capable of doing. It was pretty fun to watch it because this was, it kind of like bookends the Loyola journey that y'all had. But y'all enter the polls at number 20 throughout the season. Y'all, February 16th, y'all came in at number 20 for the first time. Y'all ended the season at 15. What did it mean for y'all to take a program like Loyola Marymount that it was not a, blue blood or a perennial power, and now y'all are in the top 20?
Yeah, that was something else. I never figured that would happen going to this tiny school in Westchester. But
your second year.
Right. Yeah, it was something else. We, especially the style, and people enjoyed watching it. So we were getting more and more attention from the media, and we were kind of the media capital of the world anyway in LA. So yeah, it was an interesting time, a very exciting time. Trying not to get caught up in everything, but have a level head and just continue to win games and run the system how West had designed it. And that's true to his he never wavered from that. He ran the same system his whole career, and he's kind of the wacky professor, but he didn't waver, and it worked most of the time. When it didn't, it looked bad, but when it did work, he'd get the most out of his players.
Well, he won at the NBA level. He won. He was successful in college and even WNBA. He won a title there with it. Y'all go to it was your first tournament appearance. Y'all ran through the WCAC tournament. You watched the selection show. Y'all find out y'all are in the tournament. What was it like for you? Because I could only imagine as being a lifelong college basketball fan. What was it like the first time you stepped on the court in the NCAA tournament?
A lot of nerves. I tell guys, especially at our tryouts of our academy and stuff, that you're gonna have, I tell them I played in front of 35,000 fans one time in the Hoosier Dome in the first round of the NCAA tournament in 1989. And you guys think I was nervous? And they're like, yeah. Well, and I was, and that's normal to have butterflies, but once you start playing, those things go away, and you're just focused on playing. And I try to do that every time. But it was really exciting, that first experience. Yeah, just seeing all the packed house and a lot of stake, win or go home. And we had won that first game against Wyoming, lost to your guys in the second round, North Carolina. But yeah.
Yeah, y'all beat a really good Wyoming team. They I didn't realize this, but they were actually number 5 in the regular season at one point, and got into the tournament. Y'all were a 10 seed. Y'all won 119, 115. Y'all were on a 23-game win streak, and then you played Dean Smith, North Carolina, the next round. It wasn't for lack of. I mean, you scorched my Tar Heels. You had 27 points. I think either Bo or Hank, one of them was a little off in that game. But yeah, it was 123-97. It was the most points, illustrious history of North Carolina basketball, most points ever scored by them in a game. And it was the highest field goal percentage in NCAA tournament history, about 80%. So they had to play almost a perfect game. I think they broke the Villanova 85 title game record for field goal percentage to get by you guys and move on to the next round. But y'all going to the 89 season, y'all are probably feeling pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think so. We lost a couple guys, Mike Ghost, Mark Armstrong. They're key contributors on our team. But we brought some new guys in, Tony Walker, Per Steamer, some guys Terrell Lowry, some guys could really, really play. So we didn't drop off. We dropped off a little bit, but the new guys, us getting more experience, Bo, Hank, and myself, I think that helped a lot.
That was Hank Gather's biggest season, was that 89 season. And yeah. I mean, imagine now in 2021, if a guy's averaging 35 points a game, 13 rebounds. He was the second player in D1 history to lead the country in both categories that year. And especially for younger audience listening to this, because I know we got some younger people on here. If you have not Googled, YouTubed Hank Gathers, my gosh, you're doing yourself a disservice. So go and look at his just his style. Don't watch his free throw shooting. Watch everything but his free throw shooting. But so you go into 89 season, y'all were 20-11, 10-4 in the conference. Points going up, 112 points a game, still first in college basketball. You had a really good year, 22 points per game. So you were definitely getting, finding your groove. You were the second highest scorer on that team behind Hank, who, like I said, was leading all scorers in the country. And I've always been curious about these two games, and you can never find footage of them. But talk to us about these U.S. international games that y'all had.
Yeah.
The scores were 162 to 144, and then y'all play them a month later, and 181 to 150. Y'all had 94 points at halftime. What in the world? How were those playing?
Well, they kind of played the same way as us, not the same exact way, but they like to run, and they told us the coach had told the press that they're going to run with us. So that is a definite track meet, that's for sure, and a lot of points on the board and a lot of tired individuals. We just kept going back and forth. There wasn't a whole lot of defense played that game. I mean, just kind of because they were pressing, we were pressing, and just shots going up, but we were making them too, so it was just an interesting game. Yeah.
U.S. International, like whatever happened to that program?
They're from San Diego, and when we played them, they played in like on a stage or something. It was just it was a weird. They didn't really have a campus necessarily. It was just some school that played Division I basketball. So, but we played them in our place too, and scored a lot of points then too. But yeah, you don't hear. I don't think they're around anymore. Definitely not.
Yeah, that would always intrigue me. Looking at if you scroll down like the results from that season, those two definitely stand out. Y'all won, your second straight conference tournament. Hank Gathers got MVP of the tournament. Y'all go to, just like you said, the Hoosier Dome. Y'all were the 12th seed in the Midwest, played Arkansas, lost 120 to 101. But now y'all are starting to get comfortable. 2 straight tournament appearances. Was there talk of Hank and Bo going pro after that?
Well, definitely not Bo, because he had been injured that year, hurt his knee. So he was recovering, trying to get back into the groove, and he wouldn't have been a high pick if he did go. But Hank was considering it because he had a really good season and had a press conference where he told he was coming back to school. I know he really wanted to take care of his family and provide for his mom and his brothers and family. And it was a tough decision, I'm sure, for him to stay. And just how it turned out, but he would have been a high draft pick. I think he would have been probably a 12-6 guy in the NBA, 12.6 rebounds. So.
If that 90 draft, do you think he would have been picked over Coleman?
In 1990, he was a number 1 pick, right?
Yeah.
No, he would have been like 10 to 15, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. That's from my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I think Bo went 7.
He went
7
8.
or 8 to the Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 90 season, that in terms of all around like college basketball programs, this is probably, and I got 82 Tar Heels and all those great teams to look at, but this is probably one of the most entertaining seasons in terms of stuff the games that they had from November all the way up until February, and then also the tournament as well. But y'all went that season 26-6, won your conference again, 122 points a game, just kept going up. Your stats are very consistent, 22 points a game your senior year. And y'all started off, you're in the preseason NIT. You play UNLV. It's kind of ironic they like bookend your season, but y'all played them. They were number 1 in the country. Y'all got on a roll. And then what happened at that? For someone who hasn't seen that game, what was it that kind of halted everything?
Halted everything? What do you mean?
The bomb threat in the stadium?
Oh, a UNLV game. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we were playing really well against them. We were up like 8 or 10 points, I believe. I just watched that game not too long ago.
Y'all were on a run.
Yeah, and they did call a bomb threat and halted the game for about 5-10 minutes. And for what, someone must have called in, or I don't know what happened, but I think we might have lost momentum at that point. I don't know, but I think Tarkanian rallied his guys at the timeout during that time and laid into them, lit a fire under them, and they came back out and they beat us probably by 6 or 8 points, something like that. But that was a big stage as well. They were number 1 in the country, and we played them tough, and we brought it into the tunnel after the game. There's a little bit of a scuffle. But anyway, it was. I think we knew we could play with anybody at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Way to measure yourself right off the bat with Vegas. And I think Bo Kimble said after that, he was like, if that gave them a chance for them to catch their breath, or we would have run them out of the arena at that moment. But then once again, y'all get U.S. International, and y'all slowed it down this time. It was 152 to 137. So y'all pulled back a little bit in that one. And then tell us about, December 9th, you play UC Santa Barbara. That was the first time that, the whole thing with Hank and his heart condition kind of reared its head, but he collapsed after a free throw. But talk to us about like the mentality of the team after that. Like what was Hank thinking after all this had happened? Because he was obviously thinking pro career after the season. So if you don't mind talking about that.
Well, yeah, he had fainted in that game and got up. They did tests and found that he had an irregular heartbeat, and so he was on medication for that, which slowed him down, and he was a little sluggish. But I know he wanted to keep playing. He wanted to play no matter what, so he's going to keep playing. And he started to play better and better for whatever reason. I don't know the details of all this stuff. But he started to play better and better, and actually, we had the old Hank back against LSU. He had 48 against Shaquille O'Neal, who's guarding him, and we figured, he's good to go now. He's playing really well at that point.
Yeah, he y'all had some notable games in that stretch. Y'all played. I mean, your schedule was loaded with NCAA tournament teams from that year. Y'all had, you mentioned earlier, Gary Payton, Oregon State. You had Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma they might have been number 1 when y'all played them in December. It was like right before Christmas.
Yeah.
But y'all played them tough. That game was like constantly on loop on ESPN Classics when they first started doing that. Y'all played Xavier. You played LaSalle, Lionel Simmons. The only loss they had that year was to you guys before the tournament.
Wow.
And then y'all played the St. Joe's game was the one. It was like the homecoming for because Coach Westhead played for St. Joe's.
Right.
And Hank and Bo were from Philly.
Right. It was a big trip. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bo went off. I think he had 50-some points. Hank had a very bad outing for him in that one. That's the one where the Guru Go, they kind of documented he was throwing up a couple of air balls and just wasn't being himself. But he bounced back February 3rd against LSU. We've talked about that game, 144 to 141. You had 28 points. What do you remember outside of the crowd? Like, what do you remember most about that game?
Well, just there are a couple of giants, Stanley Roberts and Shaquille O'Neal, those twin towers. But I do remember a couple things. One was it was so loud. That was the loudest place I've ever played. And I went to Coach West had called me over and was like yelling instructions to me. I was probably 5 to 10 feet away from him. I couldn't hear a word he was saying because it was so loud. So that was something else. But one point, I was programmed to shoot the ball every time I touch it, right? So Tony Walker got the ball and passed it up to me, but he passed it to me early, and I caught it at the hash mark, and I didn't really realize where I was, and I just went ahead and shoot. It was probably 10 feet behind the 3-point line at least, and I just went ahead and shot it. I think I hit rim, but that was just funny because I kidded Tony about that after. Man, don't pass to me that early. I'm going to shoot it. So it was kind of funny. But
yeah, that game, I mean, is it's still floating around out there. Go watch it because it's like a track meet. It's just up and down. And Chris Jackson actually held his own pretty good against you guys, like with his wind. But Shaq and Stanley Robinson, they were winded at certain points. But I heard Hank kind of trash talked Shaq a little bit in that game.
He trash talked everybody.
Yeah, I think Shaq blocked him like the first 5 shot attempts. He ended the game with like 13 blocks, but I know he from what I heard, and I think Shaq had mentioned it like in a SEC documentary, but Hank was like trash talking him, and he blocked Hank's first 5 shots, and he's like, "This guy's still trash talking me to this at this point."
He wanted the ball for sure that game,
and he went off.
Yeah, he did.
And y'all ended the regular season, and this is where the story kind of turns. Y'all get into the conference tournament. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know you've talked, for 30 years about this over and over. But Hank, he knocks down an alley-oop from Terrell Lowry. He's kind of backpedaling down court. He stops around the half court mark, and then he collapsed right then and there on the court. He gets carted off on the stretcher, and they call off the game. They cancel the game, and they cancel the tournament from that moment. But for you guys on the team, did y'all like go back to your dorms? Were y'all thinking, all right, we're probably going to hear some news pretty soon? Or did y'all go to the hospital? What exactly transpired like after they called off that game?
Guys did different things, but most of us went into the locker room and a few of the coaches' wives were in there, and people, and we just got in a circle and prayed. That's what I remember the most. And other than that, it was kind of a blur, after that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that often goes overlooked is y'all are still kids at this point. I mean, y'all were still really young, and this is, one of your teammates that's just, collapsed right in front of you on the court. And once y'all found out, the unfortunate news that Hank Gathers didn't survive that, the funeral, I believe, was March 12th. It was, a couple of days after that. Obviously, basketball was not on the forefront of your minds, but when did y'all have to make a decision? Like, you got an NCAA tournament coming up.
It was a few days later, I think. We had to make a decision, and we had a team meeting, and coach asked us if we wanted to continue the season, and we were all like, yeah, we want to do it.
We all just pretty much like, yeah, absolutely, we got to continue playing.
Yeah, I don't think it's good to give up in those situations.
Yeah, and the story that the picture y'all painted after that is, I told you this when I first connected with you. I think it's one of the best sports stories in terms of bouncing back and playing in honor of somebody, and especially one that's not really been captured in a big screen movie or anything just yet. But y'all go to the tournament, and the selection show from that tournament is even out there on YouTube. And I remember when they announced Loyola, it was they're going to be playing with heavy hearts. The nation's behind this team. How did that feel knowing y'all going into that tournament and everybody, regardless of what school they were from, with the exception of New Mexico State, they were pulling for you guys?
Yeah, I don't know. It was I just know we were focused on the task at hand, trying not to get caught up in everything. But it was a good feeling. We got a lot of support, and people, positive and giving us, praying for us, and all sorts of good stuff. So, we were thankful for that, and trying to get through a tough time. Yeah.
So the 1990 tournament, you know, if you look at outside of the Final Four, I mean, that national championship game was just a blowout, but probably one of the most underrated tournaments ever, just from top to bottom. That was just a stacked, all the way up to the Elite Eight. The NBA players that were in there, the upsets. I mean, it's just a really, really remarkable tournament. And then the journey that y'all had throughout there. You open up 12 days after Hank's passing. Y'all have New Mexico State. Y'all are the number 11 seed in the West, and you go in, and at halftime it's 46-46. 15 minutes in, Bo Kimball's got 15 fouls. I mean, he's got 4 fouls 15 minutes into the game. What was the talk that Coach Westhead had with y'all at halftime that really sparked y'all in that second half?
I don't really recall exactly what he said, but he just said, keep doing what you're doing, because usually when we keep pressing and running and teams aren't used to that, but we are, because we do it every day in practice, and they eventually start tiring, and that's when we know that we have them. And so that's kind of what happened in that game, I believe. And they just weren't accustomed to it. So we kept doing what we were doing and stay the course, and it worked out well for us.
What about the free throw, the left-handed free throw that Bo Kimble would do in honor of Hank? When did you hear that was something he was gonna do in the tournament?
I don't really remember. I think maybe a couple of days before something. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it was a big story, a big unique part of the whole story, and he buried all 3 of them, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah, still, if you watch every time the tournament comes on and they're showing like a montage of tournament moments, that's usually one of the ones is Bo Kimble throwing up that left-handed free throw. And for those who don't know, Hank Gathers was great at everything on the court. He struggled with free throw shooting. And I remember watching that North Carolina game. You can actually hear, I think it was like Scott Williams or somebody yell out, he can't shoot free throws. And he shot one and it just like clanked off the front of the iron really hard. And it's weird because he was such a good shooter from 10, 15 feet out. But he switched to his left hand to try to shoot a little bit better. Do you remember him talking to you about it? Because you were obviously a good scorer. Did Hank ever come to you asking you for advice on free throw shooting?
No, he didn't. It was just something he decided to do one day. Just like, I'm switching to left. Because he had practiced it a little bit, and then I think he actually shot better left-handed.
He did.
Remember, yeah. So
yeah.
He had better form, and he couldn't shoot from 10 feet out, more than 10 feet out, typically in a game. But inside 10 feet, he'd just rise up and put it in. And he could jump pretty good too, and was a relentless rebounder. So he was a aggressive player.
That the LSU game, he was shooting left-handed at the free throw line, and it was a lot better. But yeah, y'all finally come out in the second half and finish off New Mexico State 111-92. That was the one where Bo hit the first one, and that's just a good sports moment. Seeing that and seeing the Hank 44 handkerchiefs that everybody had up, Hank's here banner. But then this is a game I'm very excited to talk to you about. March 18th, you find out, okay, we beat New Mexico State. Now we got the defending champs. We got Michigan. And this is the one that put you in the record books of college basketball, which you're still in there today. Y'all beat Michigan. An article I read said it's pretty funny. The losing team had 115 points and they got beat by 34. If that tells you anything, it was 149-115. You hit 11 3-pointers. You had 41 points, most threes in a tournament game, most points scored by one team, and most points combined. What do you remember about that game?
I was getting the ball at the right place. I had some really good point guards. I mean, I always tell people I shot a lot, which helps, but no, they were getting me the ball, and I was getting open a lot. It was just one of those games where, you just kind of putting it up and everything's falling, like you could shoot into the ocean. But yeah, I was just really focused. Our team, everybody was hitting that game really, and it was a sight to see for sure. But we had some great point guards that would really get you the ball in the shooting pocket and get, it really helps if you're a shooter in your rhythm.
I remember, I'm trying to think, Griffin, was that his name that played for Michigan?
Yeah.
He had the little phantom elbow where Bo was just standing there and he was trying to slow the game down. So he just collapsed like he had got elbowed by Bo Kimble. But after that, yeah, y'all are on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Tell us about the Arsenio Hall show.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't talk. I was super nervous. I was being on TV like that. And Bo is a natural, though. He was a great talker at that time. And I was super nervous. So I did really poorly, I thought. But I tried, it was kind of fun. And Coach didn't want us to go on the show, but we kind of talked him into it. And just one of the parts of that whole run.
Yeah. Yep. Y'all went on there. Like I said, I still have the Sports Illustrated of Bo Kimble on the cover. And then a week later, Alabama tried to really slow y'all down in the Sweet 16. They held y'all to 62 points. Y'all shot like 34%, and y'all still won. You still survived. What do you remember? Because that had to be tough for y'all getting out running, and they had Robert Ory on that team. They were a big team as well. But what do you remember about that one?
Just that they had 3-on-1 fast breaks and they'd slow it down. I wouldn't attack the basket just because they wanted to play their slow down game and work the clock. And they slowed it down all right, but we unfortunately came up as a winner. Robert Ory missed a shot at the buzzer and we ended up winning. So
that's not something a lot of people say a lot. Robert Ory missed a shot at the buzzer.
I know. He had some big shots in his days. I guess you got to fail before you succeed.
There you go. So after that, y'all get, UNLV in the regional final. And, that was, as they say, where the Cinderella story ended with 131 to 101. But after that game, because you said on the 30 for 30, you were kind of like, all right, so what's next after this? Y'all have gone, talk about a roller coaster season, ups and downs. What was the vibe like in the locker room? Were y'all just excited that y'all honored Hank as great as you did throughout the tournament? Obviously, you're upset you're not going to Denver, but what was the mood like with y'all?
I think we were a little bit sad still, and we wanted to win and go to the Final Four. We wanted to go as far as we could. We actually did think we were going to win the whole thing. So it was kind of a letdown in some ways, and just a really confusing time as well, just with the whole thing, Hank situation. So yeah, it was just a kind of a wild ride.
Yeah, I think Bo Kimble even said, he's like, if we had Hank, we win the national championship that year. No, he's like, guarantee you that was ours to win. So afterwards, you graduate from Loyola. You got a bachelor's in business administration, and you got some tryouts in the NBA, the Suns and the Rockets. What do you think it was? Because even Bo Kimble didn't have a really long NBA career either. What do you think it was that kept y'all from having, 10, 15-year careers in the NBA?
Well, for me, I wasn't very athletic. I couldn't even dunk, really. They asked me to dunk at the Phoenix Suns camp. They had all the guys go from half court and go in and dunk in the layup drill. And I was like the only guy that couldn't dunk. But not necessarily that because of that, but because I could shoot as good or better than anybody in the league and on those teams. But I was undersized as a two guard. I was 6'2", and I could defend a little bit, but I wasn't super athletic. Most two guards in the NBA are 6'5", 6'6", and especially nowadays they're like 6'7", 6'6" positionless players. But it was hard to defend guys. For me, sometimes they try to isolate or post me up or whatever. I do my best, but maybe quickness too and athleticism, part of it. But I think for a guy like me, it would have been the right timing. I played really well with the Suns, and they invited me back. But my agent had me go to the Rockets to play a summer with them, and they had drafted a two guard And so that when they signed him, they let me go after the summer. So that's kind of that. And then I played a couple years in the CBA, which is minor leagues. I was drafted in the first round of the CBA draft by Albany with George Carl as a coach, and we had a really good team. And then played the rest of my career overseas after 2 years here.
How was it with George Carl?
Oh, it's great. He's a great X and O guy. You know, that was before he was in the NBA for the second time. And we had six guys get called up, and I was the seventh guy. So I was close. Our record was the best ever in the CBA, 50-6, and we had some serious talent. And he's a great coach. So, but it didn't work out for me here, so I went overseas.
Which one of your overseas? Because we talked about it a little bit before you hit record. You know, you were in Germany, Spain, Australia. Which one of those really stood out the most to you?
Probably Germany. I went there first after playing here for a couple of years, and it was a good experience. You know, I was able to lead the league in scoring a couple of years, and I felt like I was really quick because playing in college and pro over in the U.S., the guys are super athletic and quick, and getting used to that. When I went to Germany, I felt like I was the quickest guy on the court.
Oh, wow.
Which is a great feeling.
Yeah. I
could go by guys and shoot and get freed up for shots, and so it was fun. I liked it, but you know, I was using my body and playing basketball. Wasn't making a lot of money, but I don't know, maybe I would have done it differently if I would have do it all over again. But I'm glad I played. I wouldn't change it, but when you rely on your body, you never know when you're going to get injured, and you got to have a plan B. And I didn't really have that, so so that's what I recommend to guys: have a plan B when you're playing basketball, because everybody's got to hang it up at some point. And, I had to too. So.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we even say here in the military, you're gonna hang your uniform up at some point. You got to have a plan B.
Yeah.
So you coached in high school, you coached college level. What do you think you learned most about yourself, not as a player, but as a coach?
Well, as a coach, it's a different hat. You're on the other side. And as a coach, you're not a player, you know, obviously, but you got to see the game differently, you know. And I've learned a lot as being a coach, and just try to take what I learned from my coaches and apply it to what I coach kids now. And I think it's helped a lot to have great coaches that I grew up being coached by. And I'm very thankful for that, for them being a positive influence in my lives. And I try to be a positive influence in the kids' lives as well.
Yeah. And you've also got the Jeff Fryer Basketball Academy at Newport Beach. So tell our listeners all about your academy.
Well, yeah. So coaching came easy to me. So that's why I made that transition to be a coach. And we are in Newport Beach and Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa, right in the general area there in Orange County. And we have usually we have over 10 teams from 3rd grade to 10th grade in high school. And we have all of our coaches played college basketball, so we have a great coaching staff. And they work really well with the kids. You know, I'm just about to lease a building to put a half court in and have a training facility for shooting and skills. So that's really big too. Looking forward to doing that and getting a lot of kids in there, training them, but just trying to be a positive influence in kids' lives is the main focus. And our tagline is, what is it? It's coaching basketball, coaching youth using basketball as a catalyst to build character. And we really want to influence the kids positively. So that's kind of the way we do things.
How rewarding is that, coaching kids?
It's great. You know, it came easy to me, you know, as far as rather than doing something else in the business world. I'm in the business world because it is a business, but we are a nonprofit, and we do mission trips overseas to the Philippines every year. We
Oh,
didn't
wow.
go last year because of the COVID deal, but basketball is number one sport in the Philippines, and we team up with a ministry over there, and we take 50-pound boxes of basketball shoes that are donated to our organization through the kids in our program, and give it to kids along with uniforms and stuff. But we work with a tribal group over there on an island, remote island, and it's really rewarding for us. We take our coaches there, and it's fantastic, to get back what we learned along the way and share the gospel message. So that's very important to us, and goes with our mission.
That's really cool. How did y'all get that started?
A friend of mine, quit his job with the state of California about 6 years ago, and he moved over there to be a full-time missionary. And he kept inviting me to come over, and finally 4 years ago I said yes, and that was one of the best decisions I made, because it broke my heart for what was going on over there with the poverty, and the kids don't even wear basketball shoes. They play in their bare feet and flip-flops. They can't afford shoes or barely a shirt on their back. So I went over there, and I just fell in love with the country, the people of the country, and kept going back. I've been there 7 times in the last 4 years, and it's a yearly, sometimes biannually program for us. So we love going over there.
It's really awesome. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's cool. And then, outside of that, I mean, talk about your legacy in college basketball and that team you were part of. In 2005, the 90 Loyola team was inducted into the LMU Athletics Hall of Fame. In 2008, you were inducted into the Loyola Athletic Hall of Fame. What did that mean to you to have your alma mater, induct you twice into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's great. I really had a phenomenal time there. I can't say anything bad about it. Some people have different stories about how they were in college, but I always be loyal to my college, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I grew as a man, and I had a great experience. So I love being part of that school, and that's why I said I would play there, because I'm loyal to them.
I think I saw like a clip of them against like Minnesota. They were playing somebody. I think they still have like a big printout of you hanging up in the arena, don't they?
They did until this year. I think they took it down because they painted or something, or did something different. Yeah.
But how cool is that when you walk in there and go like, wow, this is my legacy here.
It's cool, but I try to give God the glory, because I'm a Christian, and that's the most important decision I've ever made in my life. So having a relationship with Jesus Christ. So that's the most, because I say that because he helps keep me humble, and hopefully I am, and level-headed, and he does give me peace and joy too, when I didn't have it before 20 years ago. But I'm thankful. I try to be thankful every day, and every good gift is from above, and so that's kind of the way my thought process is.
Yeah. That's I always like asking people, if you don't mind, like you kind of hinted there, you said, about 20 years ago that wasn't where you were at. When did you open your heart and decide, I need to make this change in my life?
Well, once Hank died, that got me thinking a lot about life and death and what happens when I die. And so that got me on a little bit of a faith journey, like what is life all about? What am I doing here? Where do I go when I die? So it wasn't until about 21 years ago when I surrendered my life to follow him. I had some hard times, financially, physically, mentally, spiritually, you name it. And I had to hit rock bottom before I came to make that decision. And he saved my life. And I had to be broken for him to save me. And I'm so thankful to this day. That's why I wouldn't change anything. I'm thankful for the gifts he gave me, being able to score 11 threes against Michigan, all the success we had. And I think that was a blessing, that he gave me. And I try to give back to others and be positive with them, with the kids we coach, and hopefully they won't make the same mistakes I made in my life, and hopefully they can be on a better path than I took for some of the hard times I had to go through. But I wouldn't change it for anything, and just try to be grateful and thankful every day.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I know you're not going to do it, so I'll finish reading the list of accolades that you've been honored with. At 2013 NCAA tournament, you were honored at halftime as best of Los Angeles college basketball as part of like their 75th anniversary. You 2014 WCC Hall of Honor, and Coach West had inducted you for that. And were you there at the unveiling of a Hanks statue outside of?
It was, yeah. Yep.
How cool was that to see that statue?
It was cool. All the guys came back, and West had a knock. He did a home run with his speech, and it was phenomenal. Just seeing all the guys again and getting together with the coaches and the players. So I hope we can do that more often.
Yeah, and that's I told my wife that's a bucket list thing for me. We've been to LA a couple of times, and now that I know that statue's there, that's something I definitely want to go. I'll go out of my way to see that.
Yeah.
What do you've kind of talked about it here and there, but what advice would you have for a young aspiring athlete in 2021, especially with COVID and everything that's going on?
Yeah, just have the right perspective. And that perspective is to don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, very few players make it to college with a scholarship. Even fewer make it to the pros. To always have a plan B, work your hardest, be especially in a team environment when you can play for a team, that's really important because everybody has to work in a team environment someday with a job. So team sports are really important for development and being a team player. I'd say that the most. Yeah.
And final question for you. 50 years from now, your name's probably still going to be in the record book, but 50 years from now, somebody mentions Jeff Fryer. What do you want them to say about you?
That he loved God and he was a friend to others and he loved others. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I cannot thank you enough for doing this. The 90 Loyola team, I love everything about that story in terms of how y'all bounced back and played in honor of a fallen teammate and stuff. And I think there's so many messages that, even the military, we can pick up from what y'all went through and what y'all experienced, especially at such a young age that y'all were. So thank you for, taking time to do this. We will have all the links for your academy and for anything else that you want us to push out there to our audience. What final words do you have for the people out there listening?
I know it's a tough, crazy time in our world right now, but just try to keep things in perspective and stay the course. And if God is in control of all things, even though we think he's not sometimes, and I know I'm not in control all the time, but he is, and I put my faith in him, and that's my prayer for everybody listening, that they would put their faith in him too, because this world is dying. I mean, life is short, but eternity is forever, and he's given me hope in that and having eternity with him. So thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure and honor to have you on here. Folks, that is all the time we have. Stay tuned for another episode of the Shadows Podcast.